in your country. Unfortunately, lives have been lost in the fatal accident that did happen today, and of course the one that had the train colliding with a bus. That as we speak, we hear 6 persons have died. First off, what is the situation around the area? And I'm talking about the Naivasha area. If you can help us with that information.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elvin. It is unfortunate and the sad breaking news whereby we got a twin accident. One is by air crash and another is an accident from the train involving with a bus. The incident is so heartbreaking, and we are wishing the families quick recovery to those who are in the hospital, and the heartfelt condolences to those that have lost life. I would like to urge government to to ensure the mechanism of protecting life even in times of accident. You know, when accident happen, those people are in a critical situation where they need emergency attention in matters of medication and any other area of ensuring life is protected. So I urge government, not only in Kenya, across Africa, air evacuation is an emergency mean of evacuation whenever we have accident like air crash. Because an air crash, it happens if it is involved in an accident. That life is very critical, and if it takes that a minute, 1 hour to be evacuated, it means that we will be losing lives because of accident like air crash, and like the one we have seen in Naivasha, which is an interior from the capital city. So air evacuation should be put in place in every republic to evacuate its public or citizen in case of an accident. So we are looking forward, and we are wishing the families quick recovery and heartfelt condolences to those that have lost lives.
All right then. Well, again, I want to still stay with you on this particular accident in Naivasha. Interestingly, we hear as it stands, the police have been trying so hard to evacuate people, and interesting as well, the Kenyan Pipeline Company, whose boss was involved in the accident, has said that they've taken their staffs to a nearby hospital. If you can, I know Naivasha is a bit distance from the capital, Nairobi, where of course I believe you are also at. If you can you help us with an on-hand report if truly there are no more than the figures that we are hearing that have died? We hear about 6 persons presently have passed on as a result of that accident, and I'm talking about the train and the bus colliding. So if you can help us with figures, if they are not higher than the figures that has been reported by local media.
Those are the numbers that are already confirmed. The rest is they have severe injuries, which they have been taken care of by the resident hospital in the region. But that the government taking mechanism, there should be out to control when the train is on approaching the area that is designated. The traffic should be controlled to avoid accident going forward. So it should be urgency and fast to ensure that lives are saved, not only in that situation, but any other traffic kind of to be well checked and measured.
All right then. Thank you so very much for that information. Let me take it down here to the studio. Doctor, this situation about loss of lives, particularly train and buses colliding, you are in Nigeria, and of course you're a major economist at this point. I want to find out, is there something you think government can do in terms of navigating traffic? You also recall that these kind of situations also do happen in several countries, not just in Kenya, even in Nigeria, where there would be train lines where transport buses and cars also ply the same road. What can the government do right in this kind of situation?
Well, for me, it is a breakdown. I'll first of all start by commiserating with the families of those that lost the lives. But it is a failure of infrastructure and technology.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's no way a bus and a train should be sharing the same. There should be no connection, understand me? If the technology is working on, there's where the designated rail cross lines.
Okay.
And there will always be something that will hold the train while passengers are crossing or vehicles are crossing. They should be like fire and water. They shouldn't mix. So the last time I heard of this was in a remote part of India.
Right.
So there's no government presence there, so anything can happen. So this is a breakdown of technology and infrastructure.
Okay.
Because trains should have their own pathways and vehicles should have their own pathways.
Now, looking at the fact that the president of Kenya, I'm talking about President William Ruto, is also still having a bit of issues with the Gen Zs and several protests that have, gone down in the past couple of weeks. Is there the possibility that the government will be hands-on this to wanting to get it right after now? Because just like you said, it's a major infrastructural deficit when it comes to train and buses colliding or sharing roads, as it were.
Well, it's not everything that should be that the president should be held accountable, because the president shouldn't be everywhere.
Okay.
Understand me? But the duty of a leader is to appoint able lieutenants who can help to achieve his vision. Understand? So a president don't need to be the best driver or the best accountant. Understand me? But he can appoint people who will help him to make sure that things moves well. I don't know how positions are shared in Kenya, but in Nigeria we have Minister of Transport.
It's almost the same thing everywhere.
Okay, so it is the person that should ensure that there's that things work the way it should be.
I'm still going to stay with you, Doctor. And before we go to Uganda, the part where you say the president should appoint, he has appointed. But if, as it stands, there are budgets for these things, just like we have in Nigeria, where we have budget for education, budget for health and all of that, but we still have infrastructural decay, like we can see visibly in some of the locals. What can be done on the part of the president, because the buck stops at his table again?
What should be done is to act as a kind of what is the right word? That's overseer, supervisor.
Right.
To make sure that those he appointed are doing what they are supposed to do.
Okay.
Understand? Okay. Yeah, just like the National Assembly in every country acts as help in the checks and the balances,
right,
to make sure that people are doing what they are being paid to do. Okay. Sure.
All right, then. Let's take this conversation to Uganda. Barrister, you are in the know of this conversation. And Doctor here did say that infrastructural deficit is one of the factors where you would have this kind of accident occur, where trains and buses can be sharing a road. From your perspective, what can be done to alleviate this kind of conversation from where we are to the next level? Because technologically, like he said, if it's not being done right in 2025, a time and an age where a lot of persons think technology should be doing more, then isn't some leaders in Africa supposed to be held accountable for this kind of conversation? And of course, he also did speak about legislative jurisdiction concerning funds that have been disbursed to these ministries. What's your overview on all of this, Barrister Edward?
Thank you. Thank you, David and Dr. Peter and the studio, my brother Martin Ireri in Kenya. I also want to start by sending my condolences to the families of the brothers and sisters who have lost their lives. and wishing those ones who are in hospital quick recovery. It is an unfortunate situation for me as a neighbor to see such a calamity happens, more especially in Africa. Just as you have actually indicated, what do we need to do? In Africa, I think we have not actually taken much account on issues of infrastructure, as our doctors had actually indicated. You know, Africa, we have involved ourselves, the leadership today has put, I just look at China and Kenya, have actually gone into so many deals. And one of the deals, a big deal Kenya and China has actually implemented is the deal of SGR. SGR, that is now the gauge railway.
Right.
The same thing is actually being extended to Uganda, which is almost costing roughly around 648 billion. That is in a Kenyan currency. So that is a lot of investment, which one would actually be asking, could we be having this kind of simple issues happening within the country? These are things which are supposed to be taken, covered when actually this kind of projects are actually implemented. So I see there is a bit of recklessness, there is a bit of laziness on the side of the government itself. The government does things. In fact, when you look at it recently, we're actually reading in news that most of this money which is borrowed in some of these countries, not accounted for. One of the legal personnel who's actually is an activist known by Omtata, who has gone to court seeking to sue the government of Kenya to actually repay part of it. Actually, he has sued the former president and the current president, because when you borrow, you need to account this money. But in this case, most of this money is not accountable. So that is where we are our problem as Africans, not only in Kenya, in Uganda, or we are talking generally in Africa. Okay. Our leaders today are so much interested in a lifestyle which is not helping a common citizen. So I believe that the area should be looked at. Not necessarily that we shouldn't actually, we cannot avoid accidents, because these are natural things which occur, but there is certain limit we need to look at and say, are the roads actually constructed well? The gauge railways, are they in the right position where people are supposed to be passing? So when you get a gauge railway connected to the main road where vehicles are passing, there is a problem. Then there must be modalities of controlling this, not so that to avoid accidents. That is what I'm trying to mean. So in actual sense, we shall give a government a bit of a blame on these issues.
All right, then. Let's move from that particular conversation and, of course, jump off to another major one where, interestingly, the M23 rebels at this point is saying that they've gotten no invitation from Doha as regarding the peace talks between the M23 rebels and the DRC government. So, again, this is a major question that a lot of persons have been wondering. How then did, of course, this peace talk emerge? Where did it emerge from? My question to you, Barrister, there is a conversation about the fact that some quarters have said that why is the U.S. government and even the government of the UAE being particular about talking with the M23 rebels as against having peace talks with the Democratic Republic of Congo's government? Some quarters have called this a sly when it comes to the diplomatic ties of these nations. I'm talking about the DRC. What's your overview of the M23 rebels coming out visibly to say that we've gotten no invitation, particularly in the peace talks with the DRC that is scheduled in Doha for this Friday today?
You see, when it comes like issues of M23 and Congo, Rwanda and the other teams probably there is something which was not done well from the beginning. So when you get that you are not being given an invitation, right, obviously you'll have to come up and say, why am I being sidelined on this issue? And yet from the beginning, this was driven by myself. So I think there is a laxity on the other hand when it comes this kind of discussions, when it comes like peace talks, comes like issues concerning reconciliations in Africa. There is a lot of interest when you mediation does not mean you gain a lot out of them. You just need to get a facilitation, which I believe if US and other partners were really engaged in it, when they are just coming as actually facilitators to see that there is peace in Congo. But I believe as putting that have been put aside, have not been given an invitation, that should be looked at. Maybe there is a reason behind, they have to look at, maybe there's something which has come out which should be looked at. So I don't buy that idea of complaint a lot.
Okay, then let me bring it back to the studio before we take it to Kenya. Doctor, interestingly, this is a conversation that some quarters have said that it's looking more like the interest of the US government, particularly in brokering truce, is now getting visible. You would recall that the Donald Trump administration did say to the DRC, we would give you security for your resource, as it were, raw materials, as it were. Now, looking at these kind of conversations, for the M23 to say, look, we're not being given any invitation, particularly on these peace talks. What is your position with these kind of conversation, Doctor?
For me, something might have informed it. Maybe America may say we should not negotiate with terrorists, with terrorists,
which is what they naturally would say,
or a rebel organization, because they have diplomatic ties with the government,
right,
and not with
the rebel group,
with a non-state actor.
Okay,
so that, but for me now, this M23 has become a major factor because they are already controlling some areas.
2 major states.
Unless if America wants to say, if Congo agrees that what we want, we'll help them to take the rebel group out. But taking them out, people are going to die.
Okay, now, Doctor, I'm still staying with you. There is the conversation about the fact that the M23 is saying we were not contacted, but the government of Rwanda was contacted as against us, the rebel group. Where do we factor the rebel group and the Rwandan government? Because you would recall that Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, had been fingered as one who is sponsoring the rebel group. So is the US government doing it right by talking to the Rwandan government as against the rebel group themselves?
If America is able to bring Congo and Rwanda on a table, understand? M23 will become like an orphan, understand? Because there are this insinuation that they are being enabled by Rwanda. Yeah. So if Rwanda can say we are no more supporting these people, so now they will have no base again. It will be easy to take them out, but taking them out, as I said before, people will die because they will not easily surrender or relinquish the areas that they have already conquered.
Okay.
So for me, to achieve that a holistic peace, the major stakeholders, which include the M23, should be brought into the picture.
Oh, okay. All right, then. Let's take this conversation to Kenya, where Mr. Martis is still here. Now, there is also the popular saying that politics is a game of interest. And just like I asked the doctor here, Donald Trump clearly has said his administration is ready to work with the DRC and, of course, on the part of security for a resource deal, which is what they are still having conversations on. But as a financial person, is this going to in any way have to maybe help the economy of the DRC that have been dwindling as a result of the insecurity that has been consistent in that country if the U.S. government finally signs this deal and stamp out the M23 from the DRC. Plus, second question, why do you also think that the Donald Trump administration and of course the UAE that has been brokering this peace is not clearly talking to the M23 rebels, because they've come out and said we're not being talked to, we did not get an invitation, but the Rwandan government is part of the conversation, plus of course the DRC?
From the perspective of what is happening in DRC Congo, I want to say that there has been a gap in diplomatic ties, and especially we have not seen a hand of AU, Africa Union, into this matter. This is the reason behind it is that the surrounding or the neighborhood country have interest of not Congo having its solidarity, political stability, peace in this area, because there is a lot of brokerage in the resource in reserves of copper and the gold mine in Congo.
Right.
So hence that's why you can see there is a lot of antagonism and diplomatic gap. Hence when Donald Trump, the president of the United States, brings his hand on this matter, we are seeing the future of this country. The only thing that is mischievous or something that is suspicious is how Africa is conducting itself. Sometimes the big project we are eliminating the United States, but when the elephant or giant is in the room, that's when we welcome them to help us. But essentially, we don't want to collaborate them on building Africa and the future of Africa. So when Donald Trump has end on this matter, we are seeing DRC Congo having institution in place. We can see there will be employment. We can see there are gonna be political stability in this country. So what I'm urging is that those groups end in this matter to unleash or to refrain from having end on this country, because we need a country in Africa that has a voice in democratic and in the matter of building Africa. But when we can see war escalating, we know that the gold mine in Congo will not help the citizen in Congo, but hence it is benefiting a few. So we need even AU to have voice on this matter of this country. We need Africa to unite. We don't want Africa where it is segregated, because unity is power and unity is voice. But when there is division, there means that there are those that are on their own and the rest who are on their own. So that's where the bone of contention is.
Okay, I'm going to take it back to the studio here, and I see you wanted to say something, Doctor. But before you say that, I'm going to ask this question round before I jump to the next story. Africa not having African solution, African problem not having African solution, particularly in the part of AU. There was also the conversation of the French colonies France having a security base in some of the French colonies, but they still battled insecurity. Would this in any way, this particular DRC situation, would this in any way, with the help of maybe Donald Trump and of course the security deal, would it maybe in sometime soon have serious security takeover of DRC?
Well, for me, the issue is this. One, Donald Trump want to mediate. Donald Trump want peace in DR Congo, in Rwanda, and so on and so forth.
Right.
But primarily, America don't want African countries to succeed.
Oh, really?
America don't want African countries to become super economies. If you go and read a report by Henry Kissinger in 1975 or 1976, he stated that Africa is a source of cheap raw materials for the United States.
Okay.
Therefore, we shouldn't be that strong to begin to talk tough. Understand me? That Africa should be a source of cheap raw materials for the United States. So we shouldn't grow to that extent that we begin to talk tough, because when you become a super economy, you begin to put the demands.
Okay.
So as long as Africa remains undivided, it is good for Europe and America.
Strong one there.
Understand me? As long as Africa remains weak, it is good for Europe and America. And they will never allow Africa to become super economy.
Well, that seemed to be a very strong accusation there, Doctor. But then you are an economist.
No, go and read what Henry Kissinger wrote about Africa. Understand me?
So if we are going to even stay by that write-up of Henry Kissinger, isn't that something that African leaders should also be careful about going into negotiations like the one the likes of the Rwandan government is doing with the U.S., wanting to take in 250 immigrants from the U.S., plus, of course, every other deals like that of the DRC and the U.S. as well. Isn't that something African leaders should be concerned about?
The issue is this. An instance, when you are campaigning in Nigeria, you are campaigning in Ghana, you are campaigning in Tanzania, you are going to UK or to Washington to show them your manifesto.
Right.
You are sending Africa to them. Understand me? You are showing your inferiority. Donald Trump never come to Nigeria to show us his manifesto, because Nigeria will not vote for him. So why should African president be going there that to show them their manifesto? And they must approve of you before you become president in Africa. You must sign a bond with them. And that bond should be for their own interest, not for the interest of your own country.
Oh, well then. Let's go straight to Uganda while we wrap this up. Barrister Edward, at this point, same question is what I'm going to ask you. African problems not having African solutions. Practically, African leaders going outside to wanting to sort out for solutions, particularly on the part of security. And I did mention earlier, when the French colonies also had security bases of France in their country, there was still some level of insecurity in those countries. So is the DRC going to experience some respite with these kind of deal with the U.S. government? Or are we seeing something else that nobody is clearly going to be talking about right now? Your final thoughts.
Thank you. My final thought, I think Africa, we need to really kwanza to understand why African Union was formed. Our countries are actually operating like an individual states, which is happening right now. But they are claiming to be united through African Union. And they don't give this kind of solutions when they are together in such a parliament. There are no policies which have been driven in such a parliament. So I just want to draw your mind back to Kenya, where recently the government of Kenya has been actually pinpointed by the US on some other issues, even actually being mentioned will be dropped out of NATO. Because of the kind of behavior you're just seeing in probably in Congo, Rwanda, part of these African countries. It's because when it comes like signing a deal, these people lock themselves in bedrooms. And when a problem comes, these people feel other countries, other friends should come and help, which is a danger. You're only interested in receiving a check, but you are not ready to share that check with your neighbors. So it should be very important, African Union, to identify and come up with the policies which are going to take the continent to where we want. African Union is sleeping. I would tell you for sure, African Union is having an upper hand to control Africa. That is what I can say.
All right, then, because of our time, really, this is where we have to draw anchor on the analysis segment of the African News this beautiful afternoon. We've been talking with Dr. Peter Anosike right here in the studio. Dr. Peter, like I told you earlier, is an economist, a major economist in Nigeria here, and of course a writer, erudite writer as well, right here in Nigeria, and also Voice of the People TV's in-house political affairs analyst. Also joined us virtually is Barrister Edward Okpara. Barrister is, of course, a lawyer, a business